Live. So I just wanted to run through something real wild for you guys that should be helpful, I think, in what's happening right now. Um, if you've ever followed or watched any of the fifth generation warfare stuff, I don't know, it's funny, it's shaped, but to bombard the mind with so many different forms of media and influence that you just don't know where to look for anything, like there's people right now in the world that are looking at the news from the right, from the left, from the downtrodden and wealthy, right? And nobody can like find this common ground to stand on and look at the world as it is. um in my book, as I'm writing, I'm in this really deep philosophical sense of mind lately. Um and the history that we've been handed is just so far away from what it actually was. And I don't want to leave that so broad. It's there is definitely a network that control. It's not just one. It hands it off to the next, and whoever is the greatest, the next greatest controller or um, conqueror or whatever. But we're watching such incredibly crazy shit, and we don't have words for it now. As an adult, as a father, I'm looking at my boys today. They're out of high school both, and we're just talking, and it's so difficult to cross that barrier to a common sense ground place. And it's all by design. It's like I don't have the words for them to explain like what's happening right now. It's not that I don't have the words. It's just they haven't been given more words or ability to comprehend, through the way systems are designed to manufacture your processing skills, um, so now we're watching this stuff with Israel, and we are watching, as far as the government and the merger and all of this. We just watched what they did over in Palestine. It's a major issue. If you didn't think so, I mean, you basically don't have a heart, no matter what way you look at it. It's human life. There's children paying for all of that, and dying and whatever, right? People are torn out of their houses. That was all due to technology, you know. It's all due to this technology, these technologies that they were running as a template in these other places. If it wasn't for us destabilizing the Middle East for them, um, Israel probably wouldn't have had such a great foothold, But what drove all of that is the got to look at 9/11 for what it was. So, I mean, like, anyway, having the vocabulary to describe this for your kids is probably going to be the biggest downfall that we're going to have. Like, I'm legitimately over the last 3 weeks after being sprayed with whatever this shit was in the Canadian wildfire smoke. Uh, I've just been in this pretty negative mindset. Like, what are we really able to do about any of this? And it's not that I'm like, okay, the fear is gone since COVID. The fear is over with. But I would prefer that it just ended. Like, just get it over with, tear the band-aid off. What are we doing here? And that's that slow crawl that Israel tends to take with all of its prey. It's this make them suffer and have absolute dominion over everything they do. And I don't mean to insult anybody's politics or viewpoints, and it's not that I'm polarized against Jewish people or Christians or Muslims, because I'm not. I don't care what people are that way. Um, I care that they are able to so easily sell all of these methods of confusion to us in these different vehicles, over and over, to Christianity and Muslim and black and gay and white and blah, 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 right? Like, to sell all of that stuff, catering directly to the ego, it's pretty scary that they have done such an effective job on keeping us from seeing it, and now that they're just openly, they were already in, like, I think 10 years ago, that whole NDAA thing started. I went hardcore early on, about 5 years ago, with multiple sites and got kicked off of them all, talking about the Bolshevik Revolution and watching them taking over my computer and deleting the entire paragraph or whatever I was typing, like, on the spot. And you're just watching something like that going, who the hell is doing that? Like, what? And you have that moment where it's like, holy shit, like, somebody's legitimately watching me right now, and somebody's legitimately doing that remotely right now. I've watched other tech guys and IT guys take over, and yeah, just let me, I'll get it, I'll take care of it. Just let me run through all your files real quick, and I'll get rid of this and add that and whatever. And this is the world that these guys are merging with in our government, and every one of our politicians is on board with it. Like, not everyone, of course, but um, this is the end of what we know as America, and we're not going to be able to pass that off to our kids in a way like, hey, we didn't do anything about it, like, we are sorry, like, we just, and that's what worries me, is that we're handing all of this off to them. It's even better worded. We are handing them off to the mouth of this beast. You know, like, they're just going to get chewed up in this new definition of what is considered to be mankind. And I feel really, really negative lately about all of this. And especially, again, like I said, there's multiple different factors. If you went through this page at all, just scroll down the actual page and look for those documents that I wrote up. And there's people on there are, yeah, it's all a bunch of bullshit, and they, like, attacking me with a Gemini thing. And it says, like, yeah, all of these technologies do exist, but there's no way to make any of that work. Like, and then finally, by the end of that entire stupid comment that I got there, it says, there, one thing would be, something would be necessary for this gigantic level of processing. Like, oh, I wonder what that could be. Might it be a data center? Like, the data centers that are bought and controlled by BlackRock and by, Blackstone, the company that's buying up all the real estate everywhere. Maybe the Chinese deals with whatever and what they own here, and all the digital backbone framework architecture that they've added into 5G and whatever else, and Palantir cameras and flock stuff. Is that possible? Could it be the data centers that is the final, nail in the coffin? And that is what it is. So, I mean, those have to be fought to the death. And then, now they're talking about all this water stuff and everything else. And I don't want to leave everybody negative. I just want you to leave, to leave you in a place of actuality. I write that through this book. It's actuality. The reality is what's handed off to you. It's something for you to, it's not something that it's the Christianity that you've accepted because your parents says it was so, um, it's the, same across all the religions and the politics and your hatred for this or for that. It's never about the removal of all of those things to get yourself in a better perspective and give yourself, like, it's like backing into a corner so you can see the entire room. People don't do that. They want to be out in the middle of the room, and I want to see the four corners instead. And it's like, it's just this endless trap all the way since ancient Egypt. Like, no joke. In this book, right, I have a couple of parts lined out in it, and I call it the chemistry of light. Should be done shortly. I don't know when. I'm working on a lot of different things, writing things up and trying to help people. I'm trying to help people um, glide, not glide, but, like, more gently enter what we're about to move into. This is like, so you guys understand, this is endless surveillance. This is why I'm not so active on Substack as I was to start. And the reason is, this is all AI stuff right here. This is all AI stuff. And this is what bothered me about it when I first realized, like, wow, that thing is measuring my voice with light. Go through those documents and look up interferometry and what that is as a science. the LED lights are a part of that as a system, as recognition for wave patterns in specific mediums. That could be through water, air, through walls. Um, so the Chinese were saying, yeah, they're watching us with our TVs. Like, God, how the hell are they doing that, right? Like, and then you look up backscatter technology. Oh my God, it's all about like how electrons travel and stuff. Like they weren't kidding. And we've run all of this stuff already in China. China piloted it for the company, or the country that is merging with our military right now. Well, how did China get all of that technology to do it over there? I think China is like legitimately in charge of the mechanism in control of Canada right now. I'm serious as a heart attack when I say that. I think that a lot of Canadians were saying, like, hey, there's Chinese people all over the place here. Um, but in this book, I really, my focus is from chapter to chapter to explain, like, I wish I could show you a picture right now, but so it's like the way that languages change, the way that education changes, the way that the control changes hands from one group into the next group, but it is about all right. So all right, let's say that because of our polarity and the way that we're steered, we would never look at the facts as being Egypt is the old. If that were the case, it would threaten the hell out of the biblical structures, anything having to do with the Bibles, right? The way that religion has had its grip over people for as long as whatever. So when you're a Christian, you can say, all right, there's angels up in heaven. I don't know what the Muslim beliefs are there as far as angels are concerned. Um, but through the majority of the Abrahamic religions, there's these different categories of how it all was supposed to work, and there because of the interpretation of the location that information was dropped on. Here's a magical book. Here's a magical book. Here's a religious book. Western white people that have come from Northern Europe or wherever, right? And Semitic people from the Middle East, and the other side of the Middle East is the Arab nations and whatnot, right? But they all fall into this overhead category of Abrahamic religion. So they each have their own interpretations of how these things actually worked, right? And so in their own dialects and their own languages, they've shaped their own views, right? Based on the history that was at that location. So in their interpretation of how this is all supposed to be, it's a little bit different from one culture into the next culture into the next culture. Still looks like a totally different animal by the time it gets to you a few generations or 100 generations down the road. And so, like with ancient Egypt, if you look at that as the oldest thing that's ever been, internet connection is unstable. Here they go. If you look at ancient Egypt as what it was, and you look up what is called an Ankh, it's an AKH, hey media. But the Ankh was the Egyptian version of the soul body, basically or not the soul body, but I'm sorry, the illuminated one in the heavens, right? So moved past the great river above. So the Ankh was the angel. The Ba was the body, right? It was the body of soul, the body of light, that breath of life in all things, right? Like everything is composed of it, or ether, if you want to say it that way, right? The AETHER. Um, but everything is of soul, of this essence, of this electrical existence, that is just always there. And if it weren't there, my five physical fingers wouldn't be able to move anywhere, right? So as mass has something that it has to reciprocate with, a stone dropped in water or whatever you want to look at it like. There always has to be two for one thing to exist, and those two things together make one more thing, whatever that would be. This is where the 3, 6, 9 stuff goes in, and This is where like philosophical minds need to start like dragging this stuff out and really hammering down. Um, what does geometry look like? Right, drawing out these shapes and learning these shapes in a way that the schools didn't teach it. What did they actually use them for? What is the circle? What is the square? They breathe together, and it's another part of a book, but and it's the way that they breathe together. So Muslims or Jewish or Christians, right? Like whatever they think as, one might think as all squares, the other might think as all circles. And so when they look at the language of the other side, it looks invasive and angry and no, that's not the way that it is. It's not shaped that way. It doesn't look that way. And it's basically that simple. The way that we see each other's cultures, and we've all been removed from that. But it's when all of those things work in unison, right? Like this is where the phi and the great spiral would come into play here, the divine proportion, or the golden ratio, but that the spiral in all things, right? Like that spiral, that inherent life in all things is the unification of the two, right? That's that etheric energy brought to form in my body. So the Ankh, anyway, that was the long way around of saying the Ankh to the ancient Egyptians was that body that has made it into that upper, this great river above, not into the firmament and all that, but so now later down the road, you've got Hebrew Greeks that start to draw these things out, and I think what they called it was angelos, um, and that would be their version of what they meant as angels, and they're like the last people who really had their hands into Egypt. But angelos, what it meant that that body in the heavens, and then later you have the Phoenicians come out after that. This Gnostic thing happens. There's this big Reformation in the Greco-Roman era where Rome says no more of this stuff. Like we're right. This is the book. We're going to use that guy as the poster boy, and he's going to hang on a cross, and we're going to show them what happens to people that fight against this military mindset, right? And so now in the Phoenician traveling tribes, uh, of merchants, right? like the same of the those of the Levant, the traveling merchants that have always been there, right? That network, it exists right until now. We're all suffering by it now, and you can call it whatever you want, but it's the method by which all worldly power travels, and that's the scary place that we're at right now. Again, in a new age of man. So, like etymologically, if you start going through the way these words and the alphabets broke down and whatnot, you've got the Ak, that AKH is the angel. You always see like Hathor has these wings outspread into the change of the Greek Reformation of Egypt through Eratosthenes, changing the Egyptian calendar, changing the shape of the world, right? With the two sticks. The sun is that far away, and obviously we have to be on a ball for it to be that far away. So these two sticks will determine. Right? Like I've done a video on that on here before, but what he essentially did was created a dependency for, hey, we need the experts to explain all this. That's pretty complicated, right? Why? Because lies are complicated. The truth is really fucking simple, man. It's always been really simple, and it depends on how complex. Like I used to overthink everything when I was a kid, and the more I thought about it, the harder it got to be. But I'm telling you, since you like find this whole thing about the truth in all things, it's just like it simplifies everything, and that's the way that I see all things now. So anyway, like this whole thing with the angels, angels, that's a Mesopotamian thing. The Els, they worshipped El, Raphael, Mike El. They were angels in the sky. Ankh, Els, the merger, right? You getting what I'm saying? Or not Ankh, but Ak. Ak. And then now that Gnosticism and the Phoenicians changed the language, by the time we look at the world, that's spelled like ANG dash ELS, like the Raphael and the Michaels and what what I'm getting at, Gabriel, right? Those are the people who have become whole in their method of thinking on Earth, and they've gained their halo or their crown on Earth because they were able to make the square and the circle both work under the same, under the same crown. And that is the way that you reach ascension, to become immortal and to to live among the stars in the heavens with all of the other gods, like Neptune and whoever. So all of that is about what this book is about. And you don't have to be a flat earther to read it, but I'm telling you, by the time you get done with it, you'll really consider, where the hell do we live? And you'll have a great understanding of who these people have always been, from age to age to age, over and over, reforming, reshaping the way that all people interpret reality. Reality. They create the reality. You lose sight of all actuality. And that's the way that this whole thing works, man. So I have my glasses on already. I thought I couldn't see there for a second. Webs are sticky, but yeah, but they're there in everything. Hey, Omi, what's up? I was gonna ask you if you wanted to do a video chat, Omi. Um, I actually was gonna send you an invite to have a conversation, but finally got a notification from here. Yeah. Um. So, all right, guys. I mean, that's the master. The end of what I have to say on all of it. But like we're when I have this negative vibe, and it's looking real ugly with the government. It's looking real ugly with um, the whole Israel thing, the worldwide narratives on all things. You don't hear anything from China. You don't hear anything from Japan anymore. Everybody in Australia is saying, "Yo, what's up?" South America, we don't speak the lingo, so God knows what's going on down there. A lot of the same, though, in most of the bigger, more populated areas. Um, it's just so crazy watching average people now. Watching average people. Somebody's trying to call me here, it says, but I don't see it popping up on my phone. Um, so or is that you? Anything just buy some popcorn and watch the show? Yeah, I mean that's the big problem. That's how we got here. It's there. Everybody that's comfortable with it all. Like, hey, this is all I got to do. This is all I got to do is just exist. That's where we failed. By just existing, we just exist. We become comfortable. We don't have to work. We become like that big lazy cow walking around in the farm. And that's what we are. We don't become cursed with psychosis like me watching. Like, hey, what are they doing now? Like I did a podcast with my buddy again yesterday on this. Um, it's called the What a Week podcast. His name is Marky Denenbaum. If you want to watch it, we were going on for about 4 hours, but I did such a poor job of keeping my brain local to what the conversation was. It was supposed to be about the book. I just did a terrible job of focusing on that, and we ended up going into all of the technologies that are that nobody sees yet. That all the technologies that nobody sees yet. Is there anybody? Did one of you guys call me? I saw that number pop up, saying I'm on a phone call right now. That's so weird. Um, yeah, no one's coming to save us is right. It's got a call from the paint can page on Facebook. What happened to the page? I think that Lauren stuck her fingers into it somehow. I mean, I was trying to break that page down for the Paint Can Brigade because it's like you're watching this stuff with the cybersecurity. Like I saw this last year as a potential thing. As far as the people that I'm here to make some money. Like for those people, I didn't I, like it throws you off in a way. Like you're just like it disgusts you in a way, right? You're trying to do something noble and decent here, and you're trying to figure out a way to make the average, normal, everyday mind now be able to see it for that, right? Like, hey, this is what we have to get done right now. All of us. Like, you have to have a thing in your yard that is going to drain the static that all of it operates on down into your yard and keep you from getting sprayed with all kinds of shit, right? So, as the only working method of defending yourself that I've come across throughout all of this stuff, uh, if I've run into a bunch of different problems with people that can't see it that way, and they're there to make money and do whatever. Which I mean, for me to give the level of time that I have limited, I need to kill this dog. Go soft, bastard lift. Yeah, it's like flying around. These river gnats are all over the place. But I'm watching these people on the paint can brigade just doing their shit and going like making me sick. It's like kind of making me sick, and it's so you can't go out and dedicate all of your time to all these other people and do all the. Here's what I did: I gave all my life up last year to all of these people. They would ask me questions. I would be on the phone all day just answering Facebook messages about the crystals and this and that. Like, all right, well, I'm doing a video to round all it up. You guys can all see what it is. And then you start getting these other people squeaking into the group that aren't actually there to be in the group. They're there to figure out what the hell it is that you're doing. So why are they here asking me questions and not actually even making one? Right. So, so that, it just really made me, the fucking world is sickening, man. Like, that's the whole thing. It's just the world is sickening that I even have to, like, charge people for anything. Like, I want to make them up one of those paint cans. I did a lot of them. I did a lot of them for free, man. But on the other side of it, when you can't continue to keep doing it for free, people will try and take it and make their own money because, right? It's not what I was working on, and here I am with these paid to be here sites, right? And that's because AI can't easily gain access to these places. So they are, there is the paywall slows it down. Access to your page slows it down. But when you're right here with AI, and like right now, I'm on a public conversation. This is public. This isn't like for the paid members only. All of the things that I'm saying are putting in the metadata. Like every word that comes out of my mouth right now is being cataloged. It's being counted. Like all of this right here. This is why so I don't know where to be right now. I don't know where to go. I don't like that part of it. I know what I'm doing is putting my own self at risk with all of it. And they're like, yeah, some risk. Like, what are you, a hero? Like, I mean, I would be sitting there saying the same thing, but obviously you don't understand the structure of what is being built around us right now. When you're talking about drones and automated whatever technology and these data centers and all of the backscatter and interferometry and all of those different technologies all merged together where they want the whole thing to land, guess what? Everything I just did here, that put a red box around that guy's face whenever you see him on the internet, like that's the reality where we're at right now. Fuck, this world's right. It's dirty. It's so dirty to watch that people can't even come together. I mean, I don't believe the balls on that girl to knock me out of the group uh on Facebook. That's just, it blows my mind. But I wanted to close the group down altogether, and I mean, I could see it playing in a day last year. She would generally be, hey, I want to buy one of those. She'd be the first one to respond every single time. To sell them, I didn't want to sell them. I raised the price so I didn't have to sell them. I raised the price so people would say, oh, that's too much. How do you make them? All right, this is where you go.
And that's why I say that's the $8 thing. But again, I don't want to be aggregating all these people that don't belong there. And if they want to come in there and argue with you, they're not going to come in and argue with you after they just paid money to be there. So it's a double, that's the double-edged sword. It's a sticky thing to be involved with, but you can hide yourself from AI to a degree. It's not just the AI, but it's also those people that algorithms steer at you. Whether those are agents or paid opposition or Unit 8200 Israeli forces or AI talking at you. And what do you see as your purpose? What do you want out of all of this? I want all of our children to be free. I want them to be able to live. I want them to be able to breathe and eat happy, healthy food and engage the world of spirituality on their own, and not have somebody demanding at all times that you must behave this way to get into the, it's like through the next gate. It's I use this term inside the book a lot, but it's like this authorized existence. You are here in the first grade. You're not allowed to get to the second grade unless this, and this happens. You can't be an altar boy in the church unless blah 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 blah. So it's to not have to be in that kind of system is a very simple thing, I think, for mankind to come to that conclusion together. And I think we're all there, and that we're not acting on it as we were intended to. That's why a lot of people say, oh, so you're like antichrist. And I'm like, no, man, like it's exactly the opposite. You just have a different story. You've been taught in a square what I've learned in the circle. Like Jesus is my fucking hero, like Jesus did as an initiate, as a man on earth. It doesn't matter what he was. You can call him the son of the physical God, whatever you want there, right? But the story inspires the shit out of me. Yes, I want to fight these bastards to the death. I want to call them out for who they are. I want to find my strength in the truth. So I don't have to be religious for all of that shit to make sense to me, and I hammer that in that book. I hammer it over and over and over again. Drop it, get it out of your head. It doesn't matter the way that I see things. Don't point your fingers and your guns and your anger and, whatever you're unhappy with about yourself at me. Break yourself down to nothing so you can experience all of it and learn from all of it. You can't do that if all that shit's already in your way. But it's the ability to have it's to have the freedom to make all those choices for yourself. What my religion will be, how I experience life, how I move through life, not having to be taxed to ever fucking end of existence just to eat. That's where I would want to be. That's where I want to be. That's my purpose. And so I start this book. You guys want to, so I think I've spoken about this before, but I start this book in the opening line. It is about, I have a memory in my life, and I think I was talking about this with this guy yesterday, but I told him keep it off the camera. I was trying to talk to him man to man, friend to friend about it. So it's more of it's a deep thing. It's a very spiritual idea, but I've got a memory. I always talk about that memory, me flying through, the sky without any form. And I've had this, it's been my entire life. It's that one dream that you have ingrained in the way that your existence is, and it never goes away. It's burnt there. It's like it's been there for all of eternity. And, so I'm flying and I feel the moisture, the vapor, the clouds on my face, and I see the lakes down below with the sun shining and reflecting and there's sunlight back up at me. And, you see the texture of the ground and all this stuff. And I've got this entity next to me. I don't know what it is. Doesn't have form either, but it's letting me know like, hey, this is the place you got to go here. Or like guiding me in a way. But that was the dream. That was the whole dream until I ended up like landing at the place I was supposed to go. And then I wake up and everybody's awake and aware. And for some reason, like this image that I think of next is my aunt. For some reason, I don't know why. It looks like exactly like my mother's sister. So in that dream, what I'm saying there, now that I have the vocabulary that I can describe that dream with, because I've went through all of these books on ancient Egypt and what they describe as the Ba, this soul body, looking for a place on earth to bring form to matter, into existence, or bring form to life. That's what I go through. But that being my earliest memory, all of these other things were always secondary to it. Christianity and whatever religions and whatever social structures and whatever corporate ideas and jobs and whatever, right? Like, I will get through it. I will get through it, like one way or the other, I'll get through it. I don't have to, bind myself to your mode of thought to exist in this world, you know? Um, so it's really spiritual. And once you get to that point where you can say, all right, well, I've not been influenced by any of these outside things. Once you get to that point, you're free and you're open and you're able to think with clarity and with spirituality and with goodness and with decency. When you could do all these things from that perspective, like now you're ready. And that's what I kind of start the whole book off with. You've got to be unburdened with any weight, in order to see, like, all right, well, what is this whole light thing all about? And when I get into it, and you just look at it, that the picture itself, right? The picture itself. Why are the planetes, the wandering stars, is what that meant? Why are they all of the same colors of the rainbow? So to bring light to form. The heavens are the cosmic energy of all of the stars in unison. And that's the name of the book, is the chemistry of light. The same thing in the prism, same thing in the quartzite, in the pyramids. Why would they put that man's soul body in the physical body, or Ka is what they would call that, into the pyramid to make him eternal in the heavens? Or we don't get is that it's all water out there, right? So if it's all water out there, how do the luminaries stand there? How do they stay up there? You want to become a part of that. And that's why they guarded it like nuclear secrets back then. Um, Once you become a part of the universe, right? The one thing over all things, once you become a part of that, now you can influence everything below you from the heavens, right? So you are shining your wavelengths, right? You get what I'm, that's wild. It's a wild thought, so to become a part of that. And then you go into these other things like these stock market guys. There's a thing I saw years ago, like he's talking about, like, hey, what guys use astrology for buying and trading stocks, and the other guy's like, what guys don't? And I was just like, that's an interesting, but it's one of those things that triggered my brain. And you have to think about it. What always happens at certain times in a year, like there's a certain energy in that chemistry of light, all those different lights, all focused all at one time. I mean, think you're looking at the inside of a big, gigantic radar dish, right? All that energy is focalized at one thing. You're driving down the road, the moon is following you in the reflection, right? Just like you're walking by the mirror in your bathroom, right? It's so mind-blowing to get to the end of that book and realize, like, wow, it's not just about like the flat earth. It's literally about taking people into a place where you understand that NASA has never had any legitimacy, and the same people that started up NASA are the same people doing all this shit that are taking the money out of the government, to explore outer space, the biggest lie, the biggest illusion that we've ever been told. And here we all are going, oh, I know it's this way. Well, your entire life you've been learning in circles, dude, or whatever. But you can't come to that place where you just remove your layers and, all right, I'm here to figure this out with you. You would rather just pound your square block into, I want to say my round. That sounds funny, but and that's basically it, right? Like that's basically it. You can't ever get to that equilibrium where everybody is just on the, hey, we're on the same Plotny plate, man. They're vibrating the hell out of us, and they got us dancing around to their tune at all times. And they're doing it with 5G towers. They were doing it, back in the days of the kings and queens, to influence the cosmic order in all things, as the Greeks called it. It was the cosmic order, or the divine, whatever they call it. The cosmos doesn't mean it. It doesn't mean out in a vacuum. It was meant to tell you it was the divine order in things. What the cosmos was their word. That's respect for that answer. Oh, what do I see as my purpose? It's kind of like it's kind of like a biblical thing in a way. For me, it's a very spiritual journey. All of this stuff ended up being, and I was not religious previous, man. Like I was not religious, but at this point, if you can't see peace in everything, in abundance and all that stuff, it's the people that are running all of it. It's the people that are in the pilot seats. It's the people that are teaching the kids. It the priests. It's all of them. It's all of them. They don't know that they're just another spoke in this big giant wheel. It's grinding us all to shit, right? And it's the ego is intentionally built for that structure to exist the way that it does and keep on consuming the fuel of itself, the fuel, like the gas tank for the big monster truck rolling over mankind right now. That's us. We are the fuel. We're the fuel that makes it all work. But so that's all I really had to say, guys. I mean, it's just I'm really in this pessimistic state of mind over all of it at this point. It's just like, holy shit, there's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't understand the depths of right now. And you bring it up in a conversation like, really? That's a technology? Like, because now for some reason everybody's finally broken up. Oh, like yeah, Israel runs everything, and these slow, gradual steps. And it's like I said that 5 years ago, dude. Like I was trying to tell you. It's like so now. I mean, like it's here. It's here. They're gonna basically have the level of control over all of the United States that they did over Palestine. And if you know how the Palestinians lived under them, man, thanks, man. Yeah. And if you live if we're gonna have to live with what all Palestine just did, if you don't know what that is, like you're not human. If you thought that it was okay because I was in the military, they're all dirt. They're dirty, they're filthy people, and all of that kind of stuff. If you think that way, these people that are much closer to spirituality than any soldier out killing people. You know, um, it's just, not that I don't revere the soldiers. I just went and took I just went and took pictures before because I was like, if these guys could see what this looked like right now, I'll just show you one of them real quick. Like if these guys could see the way that our lives, our current history, our current existence right now is, I just for some reason I felt compelled to stop by a. You can see it now. There you go. Oh, the camera doesn't reverse anymore. Because I'm looking at all their names. They've got the flags next to their graves, and I'm just looking at all the I'm driving through this cemetery. My buddy is buried there that I grew up with, and just looking around, and like you see the flags flying around, and you're just like, wow, you know, like all these guys died in wars. What would they think right now about our politicians like signing us over to Israel's control? When you know the depth of it, you know how bad that is for a free America. If you know how bad that is, like there's so many people that don't. They're our ally, and that like that's they're greasing up they're lubing this whole thing that's gonna shank us all. We're all getting it, man. So I mean, it's scary. It's scary to me. I want to get the hell out of here. I want to leave. I want to not leave my children to this machine to grind them up to. I don't want them to have to live through it. To live that kind of misery under this tyrannical, everything is in this in a fucking filing folder. You belong here in your little cell. Play video games, do whatever you do, but you're doing it there. We don't want you out consuming things that we should have. It's like they've built this isolationism into our cultures, man. All of our cultures. It doesn't matter where you're talking about. There's no community gatherings and all that stuff. It's bit by bit by bit. Like the news jumps on. Oh, there's some guy murdered these 3 girls that were hitchhiking. And back when I was a kid, I mean, you'd see 3, 4, 5 of these guys a day walking down the street with their thumb out. And that just stopped, right? Being a good neighbor just stopped. you know, uh, it's and the Kalergi thing, the Kalergi plan, all of that works in the same way. A whole bunch of non-native people moving into your area to vote you out of the seat you've held for whatever period of time, but it's the way that they work. It's the way that they've always worked. So I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna get off television and video game to destroy the public square. Yeah, we are really, really in trouble with this Israel thing, guys. I mean, this is really, really, really bad. If it goes through in the Senate, I mean, you're probably going to get to the point where you're not even allowed to leave the country, like the Canadian thing. I was corrected on that. I thought it was $50,000. You can't leave Canada. You can't leave Canada. You get a $500,000 fine. It costs you $500,000 to leave Canada if you're unhappy with the way that it works, man. One large psyop all the way since Egypt. I mean, like, this book is going to be so mind blowing. It's going to be so mind blowing. I explained it with clarity when I was talking to my buddy to go do the podcast. I explained it really clearly. It was like, whoa. Then we went to talk about the book, and I just got all excited. And I'm like driving out there, I'm like shadow boxing. I'm going to say this, I'm going to say da 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 da. And I got there, and I'm just like, he would ask me something. I'm not used to talking to somebody about any of it. I'm used to talking at people about it. And I just kept on like, oh, yeah, it's, so same as I did last time on his podcast. I'm all over the place because he's got so much at all times. So it's, yeah. The one large psyop. It's everything about everything that we've always done. We need to check out the esoteric. I think I'm gonna start doing videos on here, one chapter at a time. Maybe not one chapter at a time. I don't know, but I want to read the book out before I go through the whole pain of trying to get it published and all that. So I don't know how to book. It's such a freaking lot of work. All of this is a lot of work. All of it, everything across the board. Matt, the podcast is called What a Week Podcast. What a Week. And then the guy's name is Matt, Mark Denenbaum. So, all right, guys, I'll catch you all later. See you later. Thank you for being here. What do I have to do here to get out of here now? I forget. Oh yeah, I suppose the whole thing. Goodbye. I'm only here for the book. I'm sorry, dude. See you.